What I'm doing is comparing the number of COVID deaths for different states and different countries. I'm using my base, like the average of the United States and particularly Michigan. So the basic theory is that the number of deaths is a percentage of the number of people that are infected. So what this shows here is the number of infected, which is this red line. And this red line is directly proportional to the number of infected. It's about 10%. So if the number here says 176, that means that 1,760 were infected, and of that, 10% were expected to die. However, this data is shifted a little bit. This peak actually occurred around here, and it takes about 2 weeks for the number of dead to align with the number of infected, because it takes about 2 weeks when you count the people for the ones that are going to die. They could succumb, and it takes about 2 weeks to succumb to the virus. So this green line is not exactly proportional to the number of infected, but it is proportional. However, the fact is that as time went on, we got two things happened. The medical field figured out better and better ways to deal with the virus. The number of deaths is much less than the number of infected. So if we were counting the infected the same way as we were beginning, and if there was no mitigation factors, if the medicine hadn't gotten better, this number would be dying, which is 80 people. However, because the medicine is getting better, and because we're reading a lot of cases that are very mild and never go to the hospital, then we would expect less people to die. So we expect 7 to die, and only 12 died. So another thing to look at in this graph is the number of Michigan to New York. It looks like it's about 10% in this graph. And the number of dead in Michigan compared to the Michigan population. So there's about 10 million. We would expect about 10 million to die. And based on the density, we would expect about the same number to die. A more denser state would probably have a higher number. And this is our number, 6,800. This is Pennsylvania. The number of deaths compared to New York, again about 10%. Very kind of similar to Michigan. Let's see, 160, 140. Yeah, very similar to Michigan. Michigan has a little bit more. The curve plots well. It follows the green line. So mitigation factors are working, and the number of deaths is close to the number of expected based on 0.1 or 0.2% of the population. Whereas in the beginning, the number of deaths correlated with about 10% of the infected, not population. So 0.1%, 0.2% to 10%. The number of deaths in Pennsylvania are similar to Michigan. Let's see. a little bit less, but very similar numbers. This is Illinois. Won't repeat this. The mitigation factors are working. Very low number of deaths compared to the number of infected. Very similar plot for the number of deaths compared to the population. Look at that. That's Pennsylvania. That's Michigan. Very similar numbers. These numbers are different. The peak in Illinois happened much later than in Michigan. So there we have Michigan. So Michigan started to follow. Well, it didn't. It actually did pretty well at the beginning, following the green line, but it followed the red line at the beginning, whereas Illinois better follows the green line, and actually better than the green line. My plan was to review a bunch of states, a bunch of countries, but I found that it would take too long. So I'm finishing the video right there. You may notice that I've made a few mistakes. I didn't complete some sentences because I didn't know how to complete them, and a few errors. Basically, that this is 0.2% of the infected, and this is around 10% of the infected. I actually had at the beginning where they're both about exactly 10%. If the peak had been right here, the green and the red would be the same, but since the peak is over here, the green and the red are varying more. So look in Michigan, so actually close to New Jersey. Not really doing New Jersey, but just to sign off, I thought I'd put in another state and show that this same pattern continues here. The same pattern continues here. This is actually doing well, following the green line. But this green line, by the way, is not 0.2%. It starts at, that's what I'm trying to say. It starts at 10% of the infected, and then it ends at 0.1% of the infected. So if we were over here, they would match exactly. The green and the red would be at 10%. However, since time has fallen, here it's, I don't know, it's 8% or 7%. I don't know. It's a steady varying number of the number of infected. Whereas this is this percentage here does not change. It's always the same. Whereas this percentage is diminishing. So here is about 8%, and here is at 0.2% of the infected. Any questions? Put them below. Thank you.